we go. What is up? Welcome to the Get Hoptimized Podcast. I am your host, Chris, and today we are taking a virtual trip up to Washington State where we're going to learn about the Washington Brewers Guild. With us on the show are two amazing people from the Guild. We have Daniel Olson, who's the executive director, and Shawna Cormier.
Cormier.
Cormier. All right.
Yeah,
I
it's
should
okay.
have asked that
Cormier
before.
works. I did that forever. I used to say that. It's good.
Shawna Cormier, the director of membership and events. Welcome to the show, y'all. What's up?
You, thanks for having us.
Stoked,
It,
stoked,
it
stoked.
it's
Uh,
gorgeously sunny here, which is odd for this time of year.
yeah, y'all are known for like it's raining all the time kind of situation, at least on the coast, right? In Seattle and in that area.
Yeah, in the Seattle area during this time, it's usually kind of dumping. Well, it's sprinkling,
Well,
but we don't tell people that. We say it's dumping, don't move here.
I've been to
Please.
Seattle a handful of times, and I think more than half of the times it's been like sunny and beautiful there, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you lucked out! It's like the best day ever." So I'm lucky for the times
You
I've been up
you've
there.
got great luck. Yeah.
Never like that.
Yeah, that's what they say. I've been there when it's rainy and stuff too. But it's nice when the sun's out. You can tell everyone's out doing stuff and having fun.
Yep.
Well, I guess to kick things off, let's learn a little bit about each of you. Like, what's your background in the industry? How'd you even get into the craft beer industry? And then maybe what led you to the guild? And let's start there. Let's learn about you guys.
Daniel, you go first.
I'll kick things off because I have 3 months seniority on Shawna, so we both kind of came into the guild around the same time. But I actually came from more a government affairs political background, so long time beer consumer, but relatively new to the industry. So I was working on campaigns and worked as a legislative aide down in the state capitol in Olympia, and then for a local county up north. And then just saw this job come through that would, allow me to get back down to Olympia and lobby on behalf of beer. So two things I really wanted to do and sounded neat. And so jumped in and it's been the most fun job I'll ever have in my life. You don't get better people. The issues are pretty fun for the most part to work on. Generally, legislators are happy to see you, and then when you're not in the legislative session, you get to go across the entire state and go drink beer and meet people. So, I have the best job in the world. But yeah, it's been I think 3.5, 4 years now, and just been an absolute blast to get to know this industry a lot better.
That's super fun. Shauna, what about you?
Dude, agreed. A little slightly different background. I started with the beer industry as a home brewer, as a consumer, a lover of beer, and I just kind of got obsessed, might be the right word. Super into it as like a background of serving, like, in bars and restaurants. And in my past, I was a actor, so I don't know how beer and acting go together. Maybe you have to drink to get through it, but or it's just one of those things. And then just got more and more into beer, and then went down the Cicerone route and started working in breweries in New York, and then in Denver, and then I moved up here. Working at breweries and did sensory coordination at Reuben's Brews, and then worked at a couple other breweries and bottle shops, and then literally landed like a dream job with the Guild. It's doing membership and events, and I would have to agree with Daniel that this is probably the best job I've ever had. The people are really great. We're really lucky. We talk about that all the time. We're like, how are people so chill? It's pretty incredible. So that's my background of how I got here. And now we're just here to help support these breweries that we love so much.
That's amazing. And Washington has one of like the coolest parts of the craft beer industry, some amazing brewers up in that neck of the woods, some amazing hop farms, suppliers, manufacturers up in that neck of the woods too. Tell us about that. What's going on with Washington and the brewing industry up there right now?
I mean, we're
Yeah.
beer country, right? Like we've got the Yakima Valley that produces, I think, what, 70% of the world's hops. And we were over there this last harvest doing a couple tours, and you'd see brewers from Bellevue or Seattle just pop over for the day, load up on hops, and that's
Yeah,
2 hour drive. I mean,
it's a pretty
there's nowhere that you
magical
can do that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
during fresh hop season,
Um,
like during the harvest, to see like, I mean, we're not the only region that grows hops, but you know what I mean? It's pretty cool that you can drive a 3 hour drive from Seattle and grab a bunch of hops and throw them in the tank. I mean, it's in the kettle, so it's pretty incredible.
That has to be wild during like wet hops and fresh hop season, is that these guys are making it, and yeah, and they're so close, these brewers, by proximity, right? Like, I know it's hours away, but being in the same state to go pick that stuff up. One of our clients is the Hop Guild, and they're based in New York, and during wet hop season it's like nuts, right? It's people showing up, they're filling up their cars and trucks and all this stuff filled with this stuff. And I always thought it's got to be cool to experience, but in Washington, this has to be a special time when all this is going on.
Yeah, it's like a month and a half, and then by the end, everyone's pretty pooped. It's like, can I please just drink something that's not hop forward? But it's pretty magical. I mean, for the consumer too, it's pretty great. And like beyond just hops too, I mean, we have some incredible maltsters that are here as well. I feel like malt always kind of gets forgotten about, even though it's like what did John Mallett say? It's the soul of beer. Like without malt, you got nothing really. But not to take away from hops, but just something else that is really special about the agricultural bounty of Washington. It's just like our water is amazing, the types of hops that you can get, and so it's cool that like so many great agricultural products come from the state. Like we're kind
Fruit
of
too up there.
spoiled.
I mean, isn't
Pardon?
Washington?
Fruit.
Yeah, isn't Washington
Yeah.
apples like the big deal up there?
Washington apples, orchard fruits, like just so many different. It's funny because now I feel like if I eat an apple, if I'm like back home in Tucson, I'm like, oh. I mean, I shouldn't talk shit about that. It's like it's Wilcox is also like there's lots of great places, but like we're spoiled. So it's pretty great.
That's awesome. How are the brewers doing up there these days? Yeah, it's a weird time in craft beer, it's ups and downs. And we're talking in January now, which is probably a bad time to ask because January is tough. But um, what's the vibe on the street with like the brewers and how they're doing?
See, definitely tightening belts. It's I tend not to say, doom. It's not doom and gloom, right? Like people are still coming in and enjoying, nice cold craft beer, but definitely we're seeing rising ingredients costs. Washington has passed the largest tax increase on businesses in their history, so just kind of a lot of, and then obviously we have, challenging economic conditions. Nationally as well with tariffs and all that stuff. And so just a lot of kind of forces combining to make it a really tricky time to be a craft brewer right now. I think what did one of our board members say? It's kind of like death by a thousand cuts. It's
Mhm.
not one thing. It's just kind of a lot of different little things that are combining to make it a pretty challenging business climate right now.
Yeah, because it's hard. I mean, it's expensive here. I mean, especially like not to forget about the entire state, but especially the Seattle area is really it's expensive to live here. It's expensive to run a business with, well-deserved labor rising costs, right? So
Mhm.
our minimum wage, I think in Seattle is 25 an hour,
Oh,
um,
wow. That is
which
way higher
I
than
would say a
Washington.
livable wage, but it's a lot. So I think it's just really difficult for people to keep up with that on top of just everything else shifting and changing. I always say we're maturing, right? Like there was the huge craft beer boom that happened,
Mhm.
which was magical. I don't think any other industry has really seen that. I mean, it's just like kind of a huge thing that is now we're adjusting in some way. Marketplace adjustment, I think, is probably the word that is not as dramatic as saying like, oh no, craft beer is dead, which it just isn't. Um,
No, yeah.
and I know I'm like I'm such an optimist, but like when we have a conference in November called the Washington Craft Beer Summit, and the vibe was so electric. Like people were just so happy to be with each other and support each other and be like, I mean, commiserate is one word, but like also to share in like the joy and like the good things that are happening. I don't know if it's especially our mission to like try to be like, we got this, guys, but it kind of is like, shit's hard, but um, I think that there's a lot of positivity to look forward to. I mean,
Maybe it's what's in those Washington apples, gets everybody Good vibes.
It's
They're just
all about the apples. I've been trying to tell people that it is all about the apples.
it's all about those apples and
That's the
peaches
secret.
and nectarines and apricots.
Wow. It's kind of a good segue because I wanted to ask like about the guild, and the guild serves such an important role in the craft beer industry and supporting brewers through legislation and promoting the local and regional scene and giving breweries resources to help, operate their business, grow their business, all these kind of things. From your perspective, what's going on with the guild? How are things going? What's working to help support your brewers, and what are you working on to help them make it through these times right now?
Yeah, I think we're really lucky in Washington just having a really tight-knit community of brewers who are familiar with the guild since it was founded in 1999. And so that's been really beneficial in terms of membership and getting folks to, engage in legislation, pour at Beerfest that we run. So we're really lucky in that standpoint. One interesting thing in Washington is we had something called a Washington Beer Commission, and it was actually run through the Department of Agriculture. So it was like a quasi-government agency. And so they did a lot of the marketing and promotion of Washington beer throughout the years, and the Guild was pretty focused on, legislative advocacy and some, continuing development or educational development, like the Craft Beer Summit. And then in 2020, the Beer Commission folded or went dormant just because they couldn't host their events anymore.
Hmm.
So with that kind of pillar falling, we as the Guild kind of overtook some of that marketing and promotion that was previously done by the commission. And so how we found that was through doing two beer festivals, the Washington Brewers Fest in June and the Winter Beer Fest in December. And we're still working on trying to, really come up with a cohesive strategy of like, how are we promoting, just like the Washington Beer Commission did, like, how are we promoting our breweries? And, a lot of that's, advocating for more tourism dollars at the state or, highlighting specific breweries or doing, these brewery maps. And so, I think it's a really exciting time in the Guild. We've got, more on our plate, but more opportunities to showcase our amazing beer. So, Shawna, feel free to jump in too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it for the evolution of the guild, right? I think that for a long time, the guild was kind of quietly doing the work in a lot of ways. I mean, if I want to be completely honest, wasn't super even familiar with the guild like before I start like put my application in to work for the guild. I was like, I know what they do, but I'm not really sure I knew about the commission. So I think there's also this awareness campaign of being like, you know, the guild exists to help small and independent craft breweries, right? To make sure that their businesses thrive. And on top of that, in order for that to happen, we have to reach consumers, right? To be like, hey, beer lovers, come to the breweries that we love so much. So just as Daniel said, there's part of that, it's ongoing and it's like it feels like we can't ever stop that because, things change all the time. And as we said before, it's a mature market and people are, I think, very they like to consume lots of different beverages, right? If they're even consuming drinks, alcoholic beverages. So I think it's just that at least I feel that I'm like constantly like, okay, beer is still around. It's been around for millennia. It's never going away. And we have to just be like, please come drink beer at our amazing tap rooms, please. And I would add the only other sort of like challenge, and that's not really a challenge, it's just something, an awareness again, is we have distinct regions in Washington. We kind of divide them into seven, but there's more. There's breweries that are in between. So for like our Washington Guild collab, it's seven different brewery regions we call them. So there's like the Eastern Washington and down south and Western Washington, the Seattle area, which is very concentrated, and then up north in Bellingham, and then like Central. So like getting around, just like bouncing around and meeting with people. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of time, but to like actually talk to human beings and be like, what do you need from us? Like, what is it that we can do better? I guess you'd call it a listening campaign, but I don't think that ever stops. You can't just like stop listening to what your members need. Because then I think that's when you start to see engagement drop and then people don't really buy into what the guild does. But we are very lucky that we have a very engaged community, but I don't think we can ever take that for granted.
There's that's part of it, right? And I want to follow up and try to come back to several things you guys mentioned there, but the engagement is part of it, and in order for it to work, people have to be telling you what they want and giving feedback, and they also need to help, right? It takes a village to make things happen.
Yeah.
Um, you, you said you had a pretty well engaged community. Is there anything that stands out as like what helps with that, and in keeping people engaged? Because I think other guilds probably suffer with that. I know in Nevada that's something that is challenging, is keeping people engaged. Similar kind of geo situation. We have like a north side and a south side, and that's like all of Nevada. So
Yeah.
keeping people involved and looped in is tough. Do you have any secret sauce or advice to make that easier?
I guess it's just never easy. That's the thing, right? I think it's
I
constantly reaching out and talking to people, right?
Mhm.
But sorry, Daniel, you are going to jump in.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think, for Shawna and I coming in kind of at the same time, it was 100% turnover of this organization. And so the only way that I think we knew how to keep engagement or boost engagement is just hit the road. I mean, we crisscrossed the state the last couple of years. We're in, Spokane, 4 hours away, down in Vancouver, which is in the Portland area, up north in Bellingham, Yakima. Just meeting people where they are and kind of hearing what matters most to them has been really, really beneficial instead of just relying on them to email us or, be proactive about reaching out to us. We've kind of flipped it. And I think, yeah, there's no substitute for in-person meetings. So we've been pretty busy, but I think it's paid off for us.
Yeah, and something that we've been talking a lot about, this is a lot of it's a bandwidth thing, right? Because there's two of us and we have a great board who's also really helpful, and especially Robin, who's our president, has really, really been active in setting up happy hours and meeting folks and talking to folks and recruiting. Like, and we can recruit. I mean, that's my job is to recruit members and maintain that membership. But like having another brewer and another owner of a brewery talk to a member, not member, it goes a huge long way. So encouraging our members to like yeah, it's not your job, but like the more membership we have, the easier everything will be.
Yeah.
So one thing we've talked about is committees. We have one active, very active committee, and that takes a lot of work to nurture that and keep those committees going. But I think it's a huge way to give people to engage so people can engage, but also they have ownership of like specifically the festivals. That's what we have, a festival and events committee. So like I use them as like, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking, this is what we should do. And then they take ownership of it because they're like, oh, that was my idea. Or I told her like this is, so I think like, yeah, we could have more committees, not just to have them, but like that's something we've talked a lot about is how do we create these opportunities for people to get engaged. And then that also helps with like getting people who might run for the board of directors. Because we want
Mhm.
people who are active and engaged so that they can be really amazing directors on the board.
Yeah. That's the other thing too, is the committees end of it is keeping people engaged and active. And I was like, great, we made a committee, but like, are we doing anything with that
Yeah.
committee? Uh,
Yeah.
but what you kind of, two things you said that are related is that feeling of camaraderie and like having the group and the people in the organization kind of talk to each other and vibe off each other. And that makes you want to stay and stick around and learn from each other too. I think that's all natural, and it feels natural and helps. Something else you brought up was like the conferences, and you guys do a couple of those a year, kind of a summer one and a winter one.
Oh, the festivals. We do
The
two
festivals,
festivals
not a
and then
conference,
one
the festivals.
conference. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that and what works there. Do you guys do these festivals go pretty well? Pretty good participation? Do you think that helps? And what leads to getting people out there to these festivals?
Yeah, we would do two, and they've been successful. They're not huge. So a little bit of context. So Washington, when there was the commission, this festival was a 4 session weekend festival, the Washington Brewers Fest, and it was, I think, in the heyday, it was like 30,000 people coming to this thing, which is kind of mind-boggling.
Wow,
And that those
30,000.
yeah, yeah, it's a little bit like wild to think about that. And we certainly aren't getting those numbers now. But we moved it. It used to be on the east, like Marymoor Park, which is right off of Lake Washington. And we moved it to Seattle Center, which not everyone loved, but we wanted to try to make it in a hub with public transportation. And I think that helped a lot with getting a different demographic of folks to come out. Um, So I think I never feel satisfied every year. I'm like, no, the festival has to change and evolve and be, because I think that maybe there's a theme here that I'm just like always like, you can't hit a moving target. I got to keep moving. But I think we've done okay on both of those festivals, but I think we can keep getting better.
Hmm.
But our engagement is great. Like we have members who want to pour, and it's like if they feel well taken care of, and they like the festival. So if they like it, I feel like it starts to really help then get people to come.
Yeah, that's another thing where participation matters a ton. Getting the brewers
Yeah.
out to participate in that so that the value of the festival to the end consumer is greater. Because it's like, oh, we have all these different brewers that are here and other vendors too. And I imagine you guys have other folks that partake in that as well. But
Yeah,
the
it's mostly focused beer and cider. Like we've had some wineries that have come out as well, which has been fun to have some choices for folks who perhaps don't drink beer or are unable to drink beer. Um, I feel like that helps. Like if we're able to get a few people coming to the beer fest that don't drink beer, but then they try some and then we hook them in some way, then that's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
some
I
of
can
the,
shout out
go ahead.
Shawna because we had no idea how to do Beerfest. This was kind of a surprise with the commission folding and kind of added to our plate, and she's knocked it out of the park. Like going from, like one, where do you even find a place to do it? Two, make it make sense financially, and three, battling these headlines of beer fests are dead, and pulling off an event where one, people are having a great time, both the brewers and the attendees, and we're also making a few bucks on the end too. So it has been tremendously hard work, but she's knocked it out of the park. So
Oh,
I
Daniel,
gotta
you're
I gotta
sweet.
shout her out on that one because
Oh, oh,
You're
it's
sweet.
been tricky.
It is a lot of work. It's tricky, and
Yeah.
it's like we're talking. I just had a meeting with the folks, Artist Home. They help us to put on the fest. Otherwise, it would just be Daniel and I, which we've done, but it's rough. And we're
yeah.
talking about like this sort of like beer festivals are interesting because it's like, is it a music and beer festival or is it beer first? And like, because we've always had an entertainment component of it, and it's like, how do you create this environment of like surprise and delight and like people still consuming and being able to talk, but also there's this entertainment, and it's like that kind of like it's kind of a hard thing to define, but it's like, how do you balance all of those without it becoming, a monster? I
Yeah.
don't.
Events are tough. In a
Yeah.
past life, that's what I did was I traveled around and did, event kind of setups and things for like big music festivals and stuff.
Hmm.
And you talk about the entertainment component and sound and artists and expensive people, and staff and all these things. And before you know it, now with these beer festivals, you're like, now are we an event agency, some sort,
Yes.
for part of the
Yes.
year? Yeah.
That's kind of what it's one of those things where you're like, whoa, this costs a lot of money to do. And if you want to do it right, like, and we're scrappy. I mean, I feel like we're really not trying to like, book the biggest band and like spend the most amount of money. I'm just part of I don't know, it feels like we talk about that all the time. I think there's something about craft beer in general who just feels like things are kind of scrappy. Not maybe not for everybody. But I think that's kind of what gives it its charm in some ways to be like this.
Do you
There's
think it
something about that.
works? Think it works to promote the craft beer scene? Is it an
Yeah,
effective vehicle?
I think so. I think if you're doing it correctly, and I don't know how to define correctly. I guess if you're selling tickets and you're making money and people are having a good time, you're creating this memory of like, oh, I had this amazing time tasting all these amazing beers with my friends and there was great music. I think you're creating more than it just being like about drinking beer, which I mean, ain't no shame in that. It's like you're creating these memories that are then tied to beer. And so then you want to recreate happiness and joy. So then you're like, okay, well, I'll go get in a pint. It's like my
Yeah.
7-year-old was like, why do you like beer? And I was like, I just really love the way it smells and the way it tastes. And I was like, and the smell reminds me of memories I've had. And I don't know. I think that now I'm getting like kind of esoteric and emotional, but like I think that that's real. It's a real thing.
I think that's
Yeah,
real
I'd
too.
also say on like the macro level too of people like supporting small business, and that's what our breweries are. And no other place can you go to a beer fest or a small business fest is basically what it is, and talk to the owner or the head brewer and learn their story, and see that passion, and that will not go away. Like people really do see the value in that and appreciate local and small businesses. And so I think that's been really helpful for getting folks in the door to our festivals as well.
And where else is it more fun to talk to the business owners and managers and the brewers, the makers of these things, than at a beer fest? I don't think that exists in many other industries, if any other, where it's like, yeah, I actually want to talk to the business folks that are running
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
I went
thing.
to an insurance festival once and it just wasn't the same.
Not as cool. Yeah,
Well,
not as
you're
cool.
100% right. Like I forget about that. I forget to kind of boast about that. That at our like you're talking, we don't. I mean, we have some volunteers who help, but they're not volunteer pourers. We have like the sales manager or the brewer themselves or the owner. Like they're people who like know about these beers, and so it's kind of that's what's kind of the magic about it is that and that's I mean, you don't even have to be a super beer nerd to enjoy that. Like it's just fun to talk to a human about something that they've created.
Excellent. So I want to zoom in a little bit onto the breweries themselves and get your take on this. We talked a little bit about challenges in the industry, and everyone's trying to figure out how we grow, how we stay lean, how we keep going forward, and and ultimately how we like grow. Really, coming back to that is, even though times are tough, we still want to grow our businesses. We want to produce more. We want to hire more people. We want to pay our people more. All those kind of things. But growth is so much a part of that. Do you have a take on what is working for Washington Brewers? Is there anything out there that is helping them grow through these times, or has helped them grow, or not? What's your take on at the brewer level? What you're hearing? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the margins are in the tap rooms, right? So getting people into your facility is where you're going to make the most bang for your buck. And so what we've seen now, during the pandemic, it was a shift towards canning because that's the only thing you could do, right? Of just can your beer, try to get it out any way you can. Now we're seeing more of a shift towards opening, second and third locations, maybe adding wine or spirits, license enhancement to your brewery license, offering some food. And so we're seeing kind of those, multiple locations making it pencil out a little bit better for the breweries rather than putting all your resources in canning. So that's something that I've noticed recently as a trend. But I don't know, Sean, if you have other takes on that.
Yeah, I've been hearing so much talk about a couple of things as hospitality in general. Like, what are you doing as as a tap room to make your space welcoming? And like, what are the things you're doing besides like, hey, I make great beer, come out? Like, I think there's more intention behind, and there's people who've been doing this amazingly forever. And then, but I think people have to more consciously look, or at least this is what I've been hearing of like, I have to, put effort into what my taproom experience is like. And that goes from like, as you said, like hiring good people that you want to retain for a long, long time. So I think there's a lot more talk about how do you people like who are the people that you hire and how do you keep them and how do you keep them happy? Um, and like, how does that then translate to how the people coming to your brew pub, tap room, just even picking up beer, like people have loyalty to a lot of breweries, and that's not an accident. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's people who are, which just segues into my another point about storytelling, like how people tell the story of their brewery. There's people who you're like, oh, I know exactly who those people are, right? And it's everything from like their socials to the way that they present themselves, and what things they talk about, things that are important to them. And people care about that. People are like, ooh, that brewery, like I love how irreverent they are, and I love the beer that they make, and I just love the vibe of the tap room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a trifecta of things. You're like, I like what they stand for. I love the way I feel, and they make great beer. So I think there's a lot of focus beyond just making technically amazing beers, but like, what is the experience the person leaves with?
And that's hard to do,
Yeah.
especially for a business that maybe has been around for a while. And they're like, wait, now I have to be, an event promoter, and now I have to have hospitality and things that are part of my tap room and this experience and all these things. And it's a challenge to overcome for businesses. At least that's, the vibe I get. So it's like, oh man, I don't know anything about putting music on or having somebody come in and do, wine and craft night or something like that at this
Yeah.
work, like all these different things. and it's hard. Do you guys see that too? Is there struggles there with the brewers figuring out how to do some of these more touchy feely things in the tap room?
Yeah, especially when they're like, I'm just trying to make ends meet. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm just trying to like keep the doors open and then on top of that, but there it's almost like a catch because it's like, well, in order for you to keep your doors open, you need to think about all these things.
Yeah.
And that's hard, especially if you're just not just, that's not the right word. Like you're an amazing, you make great beer. Like that's what you do. And a lot of our breweries are tiny. Like, you know what I mean? Making like 750 barrels or less, you know, or under 1,000, like even 200, 2,500 barrels. Like they're small. So you're talking about how many people on staff that have to do everything. So I think that's the tough part is like, and that's something we talk about all the time. It's like, what can we do as a guild to help with that? And the conference is one of them, like give people the tools and connections that we need. Like we aren't resource creators, we can be in some regards, but like how do we connect people with the right people to help them with that?
Yes. Yes.
That's what's really tough. It's like people, some people, and it's we if you look at also the breweries that are thriving, I think there's also that they also are in distribution, which it depends on your business model, right? I think it's people looking at how they run business, their business. Like so many people came into this as a passion, like me, myself included, and perhaps without the business prowess, is that the right word? Of like, how do I run a successful business? I think it's being okay to be like, how do I innovate? How do I change? How do I bring in people from the outside that can help me?
Yeah.
That's hard because you have
It's
to have the
tough.
money for that.
All these folks are like scientists too. They're like they went to
Yeah.
school for biology, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't think there's a business class in the biology curriculum. Maybe there if there is, it's very small or it was a prerequisite or something like that. But yes, you got to figure these things out, and that's where the guild I think is again is such an invaluable resource because you can make these connections and say, hey, look, here's somebody else is doing a great job. Learn from them, or hey, here's somebody who does these things and can advise you or help you with the books or help you with marketing or help you with running events or something like that, or here's
Yeah.
a lecture on that kind of thing at our conference. um, so the work you guys do is monumentally important, I think, and I hope you feel it that way because it's important.
Sometimes
Well,
I
we
just,
get lucky too because we these professionals will reach out, whether it's accountants or lawyers or something. I mean, they want to work with our breweries because they're, you know, who doesn't? Like they're they're a fun group, and so it makes the connections a lot easier when we're representing breweries.
yeah, because as
Everybody
part of
runs
our
into.
membership, oh, sorry, as part of our membership, we have allied members, and those are suppliers. So in ingredient malts, hops, yeast, cans, labels, law, HR, like tons of different companies that are that are active members that are also engaged that want to support these breweries. So that's also a thing too, is like sometimes if someone's struggling to find the answer, we can sometimes point them to one of our allied members and be like, oh, well, you should talk to, this accountant because she'll be able to help you.
Yeah, I think it's huge too. Is it being trusted by the guild is a stamp of approval and important for working with these folks. I think there's part of it like as like an allied member in guilds and as a service provider to the industry, there's like this, yeah, I want to work with these folks because I want to be in this industry. At the same time, I don't want it to feel like I'm here to like shill, and like take their money and be
Mm,
sketchy about it. So working with the guilds to, be a authoritative resource and those kind of things is important for us in our organization. And I'm speaking on behalf of some of the other people I know, but I think it's important for them too, to have that kind of credibility with that, but to do it in a way that's thoughtful and not here to use that word shill, but like take advantage is a better way to put it of businesses in here just to sell them something. And the guild is kind of a mechanism for weeding some of that stuff out too. So again, the guild is just super important. um
Yeah, we take that trust very seriously too. I know Sean and I have sat in a few meetings over the last couple of years where it just not quite connecting. And so, we'll pass on whether it's a partnership or
mm,
a presentation or something. If it's just not sitting right and doesn't really feel good in our gut, then we've got no problem moving on and working with people that make more sense for our members and that we can, stake our reputation on.
you're a shield
mhm.
out there. You're like a spam shield in real life. Like,
We
no, I'm
try, we
getting out
try.
here.
We need some shields, some branded shield. That's a good idea.
Let's do
There you
it.
go. Idea. You can take it.
Perfect. Thanks.
So, kind of coming back to the guild as we kind of get things towards wrap up here, because I know your time is valuable and I very appreciate you guys being here. Um, what's going on with the guild? What do you have coming up? Any big events coming up, conferences, ways for allied members to get involved, ways for brewers to get involved, ways for people to get involved and come sample stuff or whatever? What's the news on the street for the Washington Guild?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
We have so the Washington Guild collab, Westies with Our Besties, is a fundraiser. It's a big collaborative brew from the 7 different regions of Washington that we've created. There's more than 7 regions, but so each region brews their version of a West Coast IPA, and it's a fundraiser for us. We get our some of our allied members involved, and they discount and donate malts and hops and yeast and different supplies that we need, tap handles. And it's been really, really fun. It's kind of evolved through the years. It used to be kind of a thing from COVID where people would brew their own version of it and there'd be a shared label. So Blind Tiger Design is creating these really fun labels, each different from each region, so you can collect them all. It's really evolved to be really, really fun. I think we had 60 participants last year. And God, I wonder what the barrelage ended up being, but it was a lot of beer. And it went quickly. So that's that. And that's going to happen May 15th, kind of on our ramp up time for Washington Brewers Fest, which happens July 13th. And it's a
June.
funny June.
June 13th.
What'd I say? July.
July.
Oh, God. We're not doing it in
Sorry.
July.
We're doing 2. Yeah.
Saturday, June 13th.
One of those summer months.
One of those summer months, whatever, they all blend. This one's interesting because the World Cup will be here in Seattle.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was going to be in Seattle. I did
Yeah.
not realize that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so we're creating a Seattle beer map so that we'll hopefully get out and promote to folks traveling into Seattle so that we can get people into tap rooms like the Seattle metro area. And then the fest will be happening then. So we'll have folks from out of town that will hopefully come to the fest. It's going to be great one day. And then we have our conference, the Washington Craft Beer Summit, November 2nd in SeaTac. And then Winter Beer Fest, December 19th. And then we're bouncing around all through the state, just kind of going to meetings, doing happy hours. We do a little party, an industry party in Yakima at the end of harvest. So did I miss anything? Is that all the stuff?
If somebody wanted to find this stuff out, do you have this all on your website? I
Yeah.
bet you got a whole event list on there because I only got a couple of those. I was like, it's got to exist somewhere. Website.
Yeah, it's on our webpage. If you just go to our website, it's under events and all those events are there. And then our Instagram, we have 2. One is like very guild industry focused, and then one is more consumer focused. So one is at Brewers Guild and at Washington Beer.
Got it.
So you'll see all that fun stuff.
Nice. Daniel, did you want to add anything?
No, that did
Hill
a good,
climb?
yeah, hill climm. So that we're right in the middle of the legislative session, so I'm in a perennial bad mood until it ends in March. But we do a hill climb here on Monday, so we're gonna have brewers from across the state come down to Olympia and meet with their legislators and talk about, legislation that matters most to our breweries. So we've got a few ones that we're playing defense on and a few, good little changes that'll help out our breweries. So it'll be a fun time.
Anything you can share with us on what you're trying to make happen in the legislative?
Yeah, there's a bill kicking around that would double the beer excise tax. And so we're surprisingly not supportive of that one. And so I think we've got enough problems as it is, trying to run small businesses where we don't need a 100% tax increase. So we'll be pushing back on that one. One, proactive bill is currently breweries aren't allowed to have an off-premise warehouse. And so what we're finding is a lot of breweries are just running out of physical space. And it's not like they can go across the street and rent a warehouse and store that because somehow it's illegal. And from way back in the day, no one quite knows why. So we're pushing a bill that would allow them to have an off-premise warehouse and then alleviate some of those space restraints. So
for like actual product storage or like supply storage or both?
Both, but mostly product, right? All the kegs and
whatnot. Those outdated laws, they get you.
3-tier.
Like, yeah, that 3-tier.
Yeah.
It's just it's fascinating to see, since Prohibition was repealed, just the
Yeah.
layer upon layer upon layer of these antiquated, I think would be the right politically correct word to say, these antiquated laws that just make no sense in today's times. So
Yeah, in modern
we're
times.
chipping away at them.
And
Nice.
something kind of exciting too is the 1515 bill. I mean, it's already passed, but like expanded, you're able to serve beer in a more easily expanded way. I think
What
that's the
does
right way
that
to
mean?
say
What
it.
is the 1515 thing? Tell me more.
Yeah, so this was a temporary privilege. Basically, it was labeled as the World Cup bill. And so it just allows a little bit more flexibility in terms of breweries or wineries or restaurants being able to serve in an expanded footprint. So that could mean shutting down a few blocks in the Ballard neighborhood where there's 12 different breweries and kind of having a block party where you can have one beer at Stoop and walk over to Urban Family with it and get another one. So I think it's all geared towards
Hmm.
these kind of bigger um, fan events for the FIFA World Cup, but we're seeing breweries take advantage of it now, some of the privileges and kind of hosting these unique events and expanding their footprint and partnering up with other restaurants and breweries as well to do this. So it was a cool bill that we got passed, and I think we're gonna hopefully see that people are using it responsibly over the next year and a half, and then we'll go to the legislature, and if it worked, then we'll ask for that to be permanent. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
really excited to get that done last year.
Because that kind of stuff can just throw a wrench in like opportunity, and like, oh, we want to do this thing, we want to block this out and have music or have everybody sharing it or whatever. And it's like, oh wait, you can't do that because if somebody leaves this area with beer or something like that, someone's gonna get a fine and cops are gonna hate it and states the state, whatever. It's like, no, let's just make it easier and be safe. Like you said, be safe and don't mess it up, people. Because this is gonna be awesome for folks. And all it took was the World Cup coming into to move it. And the
I
hard
swear
part of
you
it
could you
and
could
the pain.
slap World Cup on any bill and it'll sail right through.
Weird.
We've got the full on fever.
Nice.
Full on
Well,
fever.
it sounds
Hmm.
like y'all are doing some amazing things. Thank you very much for what you do for the industry and for Washington. And thank you for your time and hanging out with me and our listeners. It's been fun and I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Chris.
thank you,
Great to be
Chris.
here.
Cool. By the way, we were going to put all the stuff that we talked about today, links to the guild, links to their socials, all those amazing fundraisers and festivals and all that in our show notes. So look out for that below the episode, wherever you're watching it, to find that information. Shawna, Danielle, it's a pleasure. Thanks again. We'll talk soon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.